All right, so it is May 30th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the Kubernetes Cloud Provider Working Group. Please add your name to the attending list, and also if you wanted to cover anything, please add it to the agenda. So yeah, there's only 4 of us today, just because a couple people couldn't make it. Agenda's pretty short too, so I don't think our meeting's going to be too long today. First thing on the list is persistent volume label admission controller. So starting in version 1.11, we're going to have it disabled by default. So that PR already went in. So if you work for AWS, or if you're working on AWS or GC integration with Kubernetes, this is going to affect you. Essentially, it's an admission controller that changes the labels for persistent volume objects. And so far, as far as we know, only AWS and GC uses it. So if you rely on it, then you want to explicitly enable it in the list of admission controllers. If you don't rely on it, then you can just ignore this. So this was slated for deprecation in 1.8. So 1.11, we're not actually getting rid of it. We're just turning it off by default to kind of further prevent more people from relying on this when we're trying to get rid of it. Yeah, so docs update. So I've been trying to get cloud providers to start. So Chris mentioned, I think last month, a couple of weeks ago, we want to start an initiative where every cloud provider has kind of the same structure for docs, so we can kind of work with the docs team to kind of auto-generate a bunch of docs for the website. So I've been working with providers to kind of get this done. This is kind of blocked on the whole kind of SIG provider initiative because it's hard to get all the different cloud providers in one place to talk about how we're going to do docs. So right now it's been a lot of just poking individual people, trying to get people aware that this is how we want to generate docs going forward. So I think this effort's going to take, it's going to take some time. And I'm guessing release 1.12 is around the time where we're actually going to start setting some deadlines, making sure people have docs in place. So on my end, I'm going to be trying to add DigitalOcean docs as soon as I can. It's been a bit busy lately. So yeah, but if you're working on a cloud provider, please try to kind of prioritize these docs because they are pretty important for the community. Chris, did you want to add something? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I just added an example of a document that we've been working on. This pull request is pretty old, but it's an example of what we were kind of envisioning a getting started document would look like. And if there's if we're looking for consistency across documents, if anyone wanted to comment on that pull request, or if you share once you have your getting started docs ready to share that, we can kind of work together to build something of a standard for that in the meantime.
Yeah.
And I will drop this in. Oh yeah, you got that in there already. Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest kind of hurdle with this is just going to be getting the people to prioritize the work.
Yeah.
It's more just an organizational problem than it is actual an end user. So okay, I think that's it. And then next up is GA milestones. So I added just a tentative list for what I think are pretty reasonable milestones for the GA release for the external Cloud Control Manager. So I anticipate that to go out. I mean, we're aiming for 1.13, 1.14 release, but I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll try to aim for that and go from there. So some notable GA milestones being that we have end-to-end tests reported by pretty much every cloud provider. We have, like we just talked about, automated docs for all the cloud providers. We have an actual a good story around how to migrate people off of in-tree providers out of tree. So that's not just how to get the actual code out, but also if you're running a production cluster with an in-tree provider integration, how do you actually move things? How do you operate your cluster in a way to get things into out of tree or the Cloud Control Manager? And then yeah, there's that TLS bootstrapping feature that we still haven't figured out, which I'd like to get resolved by GA. And so if there's anything else that you guys think is worth noting for GA, just comment in that issue. Okay, so before I do the SIG provider update, I also wanted to talk about, Federico, did you get a chance to follow up about Walter's proposal and starting a or
No, so
the current cap?
that's on my plate. I spoke with Jago and with Caleb. It's a bit slower because Walter is out. Would be faster this year. But the current intention is to update the existing cap with the changes, and then submit a pull request with that and start from there.
Okay.
That's what we want to do.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think there's any rush. I think we're all kind of blocked on like what's happening with the working group and transitioning to a SIG. So
yeah,
if you're busy with other stuff, I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah. So last on the list is the SIG provider update. So far, steering committee has been pretty open about. Well, they seem to kind of like the idea. They seem to want to move forward with it. There was some like disagreements with what we actually want to name the SIG. Issues with SIG provider being that it's too generic, and the scope. It's a little ambiguous to what the actual SIG is supposed to be doing. Some people like the idea of having something like SIG provider because it gives us kind of broader scope of what we can actually work on, and we don't have to kind of juggle around with different SIGs on trying to focus on like what code belongs to which SIG. So there's some people want to call it SIG cloud provider to be a little bit more specific. I think Jago had mentioned that the consensus so far is to stick with SIG cloud provider, but I did want to spend some time in the meeting today to kind of see if anyone has objections or anyone has kind of personal opinions on how we want to name the coming up SIG.
I mean, as long as it's understood that cloud can mean private cloud, or I mean, it's you could replace cloud with host, but that I don't I just want to make sure that the name doesn't mean that you have to be like a public cloud to be part of the SIG, since we have I think Cisco and VMware who are kind of an OpenStack providing private cloud resources. We want to make sure that that's captured, too. But it's all just naming.
Yeah, I think someone said in the thread, which I linked in the agenda, that cloud should mean on-prem, private, and public clouds. I think the problem is that jargon words like cloud can be interpreted in different ways, and there will still be people out there who interpret it as cloud is public clouds only. But I don't think we have too much control over that, so we should just assume that it means both public and private, and just go from there.
Yeah, and I haven't looked closely at the charter or the proposal, but if we just say clearly that cloud means those things, then it's there in the founding documents, and it carries all that weight. So it's not when naming things is hard, and whatever makes people the happiest and gets us along the quickest is, I think, the best.
I agree. I think regardless of, I'm in favor of cloud provider. I think whatever word we choose for the name, we still be much better if we clarify in the charter, what we mean by that. And I think if, as you guys are saying, we clarify that cloud doesn't mean public cloud, means all the clouds, we should be fine.
Okay, awesome. Cool. So I'll reply to the steering committee and update the charter to kind of clearly define that. Awesome. Cool. I think that's it for today's meeting. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to kind of bring up? Cool. All right. We can end early then. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Yeah.